Hello, Next Geners. Welcome to the second edition of our summer series. Hayden, Byrne with me again, and we're excited that Zac Purton is going to be joining us soon. Hayden, welcome again. Big weekend of racing. You would have been all over the Jericho, mate. What IVR figure did the winner return?
I haven't had a look at the Jericho, mate, to be honest. It's not a fan favourite of mine, so you got me on the hop there, mate. I haven't had a look, to be completely honest with you on that one.
I reckon the Jericho might have been slightly overshadowed on Sunday by the Japan Cup. Gee, that was a great win by I. Incredible, actually, that the market had it a race in three between the two 3-year-olds, Contrail and Daring Tact. Neither of them had lost a race going into the Japan Cup, and they ended up running 1, 2, 3. And I, just incredible performance. Frank's the form of last year's Cox Plate winner, Liz Grasher.
Wasn't that just thrilling viewing? Watching the first 1,000 metres of that race was just simply breathtaking. And it went from the favourites were 15 to 20 lengths off a brutal lead speed. The rider on the leader, surely it slept well. He must have been thinking, I'm going to pinch this, and I'm going to pinch this a long way from home. And I think he misjudged not only the winning post, but I think he might have even misjudged the 400-metre mark.
Well, I think it was Kaseki who ran second to I when she won the Japan Cup a couple of years ago. So, probably got the tactics wrong, but we know, speaking here, when you get that fast pace up front, it's usually the best horses still standing at the end, and that was probably the case. I think the fourth horse over the line was Glory Vase, who's always been a good horse in Japan to sort of line up the form with.
Very talented horse. What was that first section? It was something like 57.9 or something they clocked electronically for the first 1,000.
I think the overall race time for 2,400 metres was 2:23. They do start a little bit different to us with the timing system, but compare that to a Caulfield Cup, which is usually around 2:28, 2:29, depending on the conditions of the track at Caulfield in October. So they certainly flew. It would have been probably a really firm track too, knowing Japan, and that too usually sees the best horses in the finish.
Certainly that. But Mia, she's would it be fair to say that she's probably goes down still on a world scale as underrated? She's probably been respected by many here and definitely many in her home country as being the best horse on the planet. With comparisons to horses who really don't have records anywhere near hers. I think it's those Japanese horses, they prove it when they come here at their very, very top. We don't even get the top liners, but you only have to look at a horse like Lee Grashu, how devastating she was in a Cox Plate, to understand how powerful horses like I must be.
Yeah, incredible win by I as Zac Purton joins us. Zac, we were just talking about the Japan Cup. You're live on Facebook. Damien, Ractliffe here, and Hayden, Byrne. Did you catch the win of I on the weekend?
I did, yeah. She's been my favourite mare, or my favourite overseas horse for the last few years. I've actually got one of her jackets when I was in Dubai. When she won over there, they were all wearing them, and I didn't have to pester them too hard. I've been to Japan a few times. I've ridden there on a number of contracts. So I just said, can you give me one of the jackets? And they kindly enough threw me one, and I wear it here proudly. I've worn it many, many times, and more so recently because I knew it was going to be a swan song in her last run, and it fits well. And more importantly, she's a superstar.
Oh, incredible win. We're just talking about the tactics on Kaseki, who flew out in front, and we don't mind a bit of pace in the race because it usually sets it up for the best horse to win. And incredible the way they had the market with I, Contrail, and Daring Tact. I think the fourth favourite might have been $21 or something like that, and they ended up running the trifecta.
Yeah, well, that's one of the great things about Japanese racing is the truly run races that they get. They go out there and they leave no stone unturned. It really is the strongest and most and better credentialed horses that seem to stand up all the time. They don't get too many surprises in those big Group 1 races, and especially a race like Japan Cup. Now, we don't expect a horse like Kazeki to go out as fast as that, but that is his racing style. He does get out there and bowl along, and let's not forget he only just got beaten in Japan Cup. I think it might have been a couple of years ago when he bowled along out in front. So he's a very good horse, but obviously the jockey just went a little bit too quick that time. But they're all fantastic horses. I can't wait to see Contrail over the next few years. He looks like he's going to be a superstar himself, and there's no disgrace in getting beat by the Superman.
It was breathtaking stuff, mate. Just going through your record yourself, multiple Group 1 winning rider in 5 countries. I think from a Australian sporting perspective, you know, with Hong Kong racing here, with many of the general public, people start talking about it come Hong Kong International Day, but your dominance over in Hong Kong for the past, I think what have you been over there now, 12 years would it be?
Yeah, I've done 13 years, so this is my 14th season.
Soon, if by memory, I think you'll soon become the second most winning rider over there.
Yeah, that's correct. Only Douglas White's in front of me. He's ridden 1,800 or so winners. I can't remember the exact number on mine. I think maybe around 1,200, give or take a little bit. But there's only been 2 jockeys in history here that have ridden 1,000 or more winners, and thankfully I'm one of them. So, it's been a good place to me. I've been lucky. I've had a lot of support. I've ridden a lot of good horses. It's taken me all around the world. It's probably been the place that's put me up in the position that I'm in. If I was in Australia, you never know where my career would have taken me down there. Hopefully, it would have taken me to the top as well. But I think from a global perspective, being here in Hong Kong and being able to travel with our horses as much as I have, it's something I've really enjoyed, and I'm very thankful for the opportunities I've received, and hopefully I can continue to get them.
Sure you will. It's just going through some of the better horses you've ridden. Who would you put down as number 1? Who's the best horse that Zac Purton sat on?
In Hong Kong, I'd have to say Beer Generation. He's done things that other horses haven't. He's the only horse in Hong Kong racing history to win more than $100 million in prize money. He went through last season unbeaten. He had 9 starts in the season, won every race. He's the first horse in Hong Kong racing history to win 9 races in a season. He did it all in group company. He's won more Group 1 races than any other horse. He mightn't be as well and as explosive as some other horses that sit back and hit the line strongly, but when he was at his best, and he used to just get out there and run them into the ground. I had so much confidence in him. I used to love it. I used to just basically put my hands down on his neck and just say, "How fast do you want to go today, boy?" and cut him free. He just did the rest, and he was amazing when he was in the zone. He's very good.
Certainly from a tactical point of view, he was one of very few that you see who can continuously back up, putting brutal first sections in. It's a bit of it's a very difficult thing to do with horses. That normally when they hit that sort of level, they can't really back up those style of performances, particularly here in Australia. But he's one of those horses who, +9, +10, +11 style sections through the first section of the race. Normally you can put a pen through those next start and say you guaranteed of a flat run, but he was just one who could just continuously do it back to back to back.
Yeah, well, that was his asset, and that's what was comfortable for him. When he was rolling along out in front like that, in his rhythm, he seemed to do it so easily. He was just cruising along, and let's not forget, he holds a track record here at Sha Tin over 2,200 metres, so he can actually stay a little bit. And he was using that stamina in his 1,600-metre races to run them into the ground and just keep galloping along. Of course, he never ran the fastest sectionals in the last 400 metres of a race, but you can't run the fastest sectional every section of the race when you're the one out there cutting the breeze.
Certainly, it's definitely one thing for a lot of form analysts and from a form perspective that people really don't appreciate the strength of these horses through the first and second sections of a race and really screw down on final sections. But you really get true talent when horses can handle that level of pressure and still have something left in the locker late in the race.
It's just about finding what works for each individual horse. Their assets are different. And once you find the key to them, it becomes a lot easier. And, you know, luckily enough for me, he was just a class above the horses he was racing against. You know, even when he had to carry the big weights, when he was carrying 133 pounds in those Group 3 races, and the majority of the field was getting in with 113 and 115 on their back, he's given 20 pound away, and he was still beating them. So when you get to the set weight races, they really had no chance.
Is he still going well enough, Zac? What do you think of his form at the moment? I know last year he got touted as a potential horse that Racing Victoria could target for an all-star mile, and I think with the quarantine situation, it didn't quite happen. But could he come over here in say March and be competitive in a race like that? Do you think?
I believe the time has passed. I don't think he's at his best anymore. He's clearly a little bit older. He doesn't seem to have the same drive and will to want to do it as what he used to. His runs this season, he's just allowed the other horses to run past him, and he's had no interest in wanting to fight with them or want to fight them off. And, you know, that's when you start to feel that the end is near. And, you know, if he doesn't run well next weekend, he'll be retired straight away. If he does show a little glimmer of hope, then he'll run again, maybe in January in the Stewards Cup. But there's a race here in February over 1,400 metres. The owners believe he's better suited at 1,400 metres these days. That'll probably be his swan song. So, yeah, we won't be seeing him in Australia. There was a time when I was really keen to go, as were the owners, but that moment's passed.
Clearly, Golden 60 is a really talented horse, though. Like, to run second to Golden 60 is certainly no disgrace at his where he's at in his career.
No, exactly, and that's the thing with sport. It doesn't matter if you're an athlete, you're playing football, AFL, whatever it is, and it's the same with horses. You know, the younger generation come along, and, you know, Golden 60 is that younger horse here at the moment. He's got the wind in his sail. He's obviously got a lot of ability. His greatest asset is his turn of foot from the 400 to the 200. It's explosive. You don't see that in many horses. He can run a 10-second furlong on his ear. He looks like he's on the bit doing it. You know, when he's in trouble, locked away in a pocket, and you think there's nowhere for him to go. As soon as that little opening is there, his acceleration, turn of foot, gets him out of that trouble. The same as if someone tries to sweep around him and put him in a pocket. He just comfortably moves out. His tactical versatility is his biggest asset, but, you know, he's got the engine, he's got the character, he's got the versatility. He's won over 1,200 all out to 2,000 metres. And I believe he could probably even win over 2,400 metres here as well. So, you know, he's just one of those horses that is a freak in many aspects. And have we seen the best of him yet? I'm not sure. Yeah, probably not.
Probably not.
We might get to see that on International Day.
Mm.
What's that, sorry?
We might get to see the best of him on International Day.
Yeah, obviously we have international horses coming here that are going to try and push him, but is it going to be the strongest of years for the international horses? I don't know, because of COVID and the travel restrictions. You know, it makes it hard for everyone to target Hong Kong, but we do have some horses from overseas that might push him that little bit more, and, you know, it'll be interesting to see how much more he has got.
I know Hayden wants to ask you about some of the horses you're riding next week, but how big a week is this for you and the jockeys? Talk to us about the Jockey Challenge meeting during the week, and then obviously how big is International Day?
Yeah, well, the Jockeys Challenge generally is something that sets the tone for the rest of the week, because most of the media have arrived either the day before or maybe that day. Most of the trainers that have brought their international horses turn up. And it's a bit of a party atmosphere, as everyone knows. Happy Valley's a an exciting venue under lights, in amongst all the skyscrapers. They have the band, they have the fireworks. It's a tight track. Anything can happen. It's always very exciting. This year, it's going to have a completely different feel to it. We're not going to have a crowd there. We've got to try and keep ourselves separated from the jockeys as much as we can. There's really going to be no media presence. I don't know if they're going to have the fireworks. So it's going to be a very low-key event this year, but the event itself is still exciting. You're still competing against the best jockeys from around the world. They've changed the format in the way that they allocate the horses this year, and I complained about that. I've been complaining about it for a few years, but I went pretty hard last year because it just isn't fair. For instance, and good luck to him, Karras won it last year, but he was on 2 favourites and 2 second favourites. They had 4 really good chances, whereas someone else, and last year it happened to be me, I was on 2 horses that hadn't finished in the first 10 in their last 4 starts. I was on 1 horse that was having its first start that had been trialling awful, and I was on 1 horse that hadn't raced for 3 years and was on its way back from an injury. So you can't compete with those quality rides. So, the year before there was an American jockey that came. He flew all the way over here, and he was on 4 rides that were all 100-1. So I said, this can't keep going on. It's just not fair on everyone. So this year they've changed the format. They've been using and trialling a software system that the handicappers have designed that basically tries to allocate jockeys an even spread of rides. So you might have a good ride, an average ride, a bad ride. Of course, you can't get it exact, and barriers then become very important, but at least it's a fairer system than the one that we used to have. So let's see how that works out. And like I said, it's going to be a competitive event. It always is. We've got a strong lineup this year, and there's still a lot of talk about it. But COVID's taken the gloss off most things this year.
What has the effect on Hong Kong racing and you guys as professional athletes? What has the COVID effect been like for you guys over there?
Yeah, so unfortunately for us, we've been dealing with this since January. Obviously it came out in China first, and it was here not long after that. So we've been riding with basically no crowds and all these restrictions for the majority of the season. There were times when there was no crowd at the races, and then there were times when one owner was allowed to come, and then he was allowed to bring a friend, and then they were allowed to have 4 people in the parade ring, and now it's been scaled back again. So at the moment, in the winning parade, the owners have to stand on one side, the jockeying trainer on the other side, so that you're apart. As far as us for jockeys, we're under quite tight restrictions at the moment. I'm unfortunately suspended this week, but I can't leave our little bubble. Except to do a couple of things. So I booked a staycation, which I had to cancel. I booked some restaurants, which I had to cancel. So we're not allowed to go to hotels. We're not allowed to go to restaurants. We're not allowed to go to bars. We're not allowed to mix with owners because a few of the owners have unfortunately got COVID or had COVID. So they're scared that they're going to pass on to us. I'm not allowed to play golf. About the only thing I'm allowed to do is go hiking, play tennis. But when I do those things, I have to do it with people within my pod or my bubble. So we have jockeys. We have 2 different pods with the jockeys. We have the ones that live on the course, and they're mainly the Westerners. And then we have the jockeys that live off course, which are mainly the locals. But Moreira lives off course as well. So we're not even allowed to mix with them. And at the track in the morning, we have to try and social distance and just keep a safe distance away from them. So the jockey club's taking it very seriously. It's quite draining because it's been going on for so long for us. Members of public, you have to wear a mask everywhere you go. You get fined if you don't. So we've unfortunately got a 4th wave coming through at the moment, and that's disappointing because we were so close to our international meeting, but it is what it is. We haven't missed or lost a race meeting, and that's the most important part. We've been able to continue to do what we do, and hopefully it stays that way.
With Lewis Hamilton testing positive for COVID during the week, it definitely doesn't discriminate, does it?
No, it doesn't. And luckily for him, it came after he tied up the Drivers' Championship. So imagine if it had been a few weeks ago when he was still fighting it out and I don't know who's second on the list there. Is it Bottas or?
Yep.
I think it might be. Imagine if Lewis missed the race and he wins, and then all of a sudden he might be behind in the standings. It changes everything. So, fortunately for him, he's got it wrapped up, and I don't think he's too worried about it.
Judging by the premiership over there, mate, you've been trying to social distance yourself in front of Joe Moreira for quite some time. So I don't think social distancing at this stage is going to be too dramatic for you two.
No, you're right. But we normally sit next to each other at Sharks Inn in the jockeys room every Sunday. So because of the situation at the moment, we're in two different jockeys rooms. They've split us up. But for International Week, we all go back into the same jockeys room because we have the international riders coming and they need to use the secondary jockeys room. So he'll get to put up with me for a couple of meetings again. But he's well and truly got the wood on me at the moment, so I won't be saying too much.
Got a little bit of an IOU there this year by the feel of it. What's he like? We don't get to see much of Joe from a media perspective in Australia. What's he like?
Joe's a good fella. He's easy to get along with. He's good to talk to. We don't socialise a lot. A few times a year we might play soccer together, but outside of that we don't really socialise. He's got his group of friends and I do my own thing as well. And we're also busy doing the things that we normally would do. Normally when we can go out and hang with owners, you're spending quite a bit of time going for lunch and dinner with them. I play a bit of golf when I can as well, but between the barrier trials, the track work, not that I have to go anywhere for the track work, but our lives there's a lot more to what we do over here than just turning up the 2 meetings a week.
There is a question from one of our followers, if you don't mind, Zach, from Patrick Golden. Why is Joe so dominant this season? Is he just getting the pick of the rides from the bigger stables?
Well, he is at the moment, yeah. So, unfortunately for me, John Moore retired at the end of last season, and he'd been my biggest supporter the last sort of 3 seasons. My second biggest supporter, for a few years now has probably been Casper Fountains, and I told Casper we needed to have a break. At the time, I thought it was the right move, but looking back now, it was not. He has not stopped training winners this season. He's been on absolute fire. I had an injury, or I've still got a bit of a niggling problem with my hamstring, so that's been an ongoing saga. But Joe just got off on the right foot. He got rolling early. He's got all the support. He's getting all the best rides. He's making the most of those opportunities. Yeah. When you get them, you've got to make the most of them. And he's certainly doing that. And I just had everything go wrong. Horses I thought were nice horses coming along, getting ready for races, either hurt their foot or bled or something went wrong and couldn't get to the races. And then I've just had an unbelievably bad and long horror run of bad barriers. I just seem to be going to the races every meeting, drawing on the outside. It's frustrating. You work so hard to get your horse into a position that it just doesn't have anything to give at the end, or you go back, giving it a chance, and you can't get home. So it's been tough, but I just keep thinking I can't keep getting these bad barriers forever. It's been going on for about 3 months now. I just keep banging my head against the wall, but hopefully it'll change, and hopefully it changes soon.
Moving into International Day, most interesting horse for me that you're likely to ride at the moment would be Exultant. He's a horse from a form perspective and from an IVR perspective with daily sectionals that I had this horse triggered is he was Hong Kong's big chance to come here and win a race like a Cox Plate. Did he ever give you that sort of feel? Was he the Cox Plate star that Hong Kong missed?
Possibly, yeah. I did suggest maybe going down for a Caulfield Cup. Cox Plate might have been a better option because it was weight for age, of course. You could have been right there, but the Melbourne Cup was also spoken about, but even though he runs a strong 2,400 here, I think 3,200 might have stretched him a little bit. But, he's certainly a horse that could have travelled. We did speak about going to Dubai last year. They ended up calling the meeting off, so it wouldn't have mattered anyway. Japan had been spoken about, but he had a long season last season. By the time he got to the end of the season, he was gutted. He had a lot of hard races and hard runs, and I just said to Tony in the connections, I said, I just don't think it's the right time to go. And he's feeling a little bit flat at the moment this season, so I'm not convinced he's entirely got over the hard season he had last season. But, he's had 2 runs back now, and he gets up to his preferred distance. It's only a small field. He has had big weights and wide gates so far, and now he gets back into a set weight race and hopefully a good gate. We'll give him his chance again.
That was one thing. It's very evident. I'm sure it was evident on the feeling that he gave you, but, and previously he dominated a horse like Furore. And in his past 2, he's just been he looks very dour, especially, when they've asked to quicken. You judge him, say, 300 metres out from home, you're convinced he's going to get beat by 3 or 4 lengths, and he's only just been marginally beaten his last 2, and he's looked extremely dour his last sort of 300-400 metres.
Yeah, and that's sort of what I was alluding to, him sort of being a bit flat at the end of last season and still feeling like he might be feeling the effects of that. First up this season, he carried 133 pounds in a Group 3 race over 1800, and on paper there was not much speed in the race, so everyone decided to kick up, and the first half mile was run at a pretty strong tempo, and Furore sat out the back with a fairly light weight on his back. I had to give him 10 pounds, I think it was, and he was able to breeze home over the top of me, and I give him a forgive. He was first up. We did some work. We carried some weight, so that was fine. But the run that concerned me was the one last start. We did draw the outside gate. Admittedly, it was only a 9-horse field, but you still have to do a little bit of work to get forward. Once again, it was run at a stronger tempo than what I would have liked, but I didn't give Furore that much weight away, and he sat on my tail the whole way, and he basically come past me without even asking him to accelerate. He had a hold on him, and so that run concerns me a little bit. But like I said, we get to 2400, we're back to set weights. Hopefully there's not as much pressure in this race, and hopefully I can draw well. And, I'm just trying to look for some positives and try and go into the race with some confidence.
100%. Moving on to the mile, obviously Golden 60's going to be a red-hot favourite everywhere and expected to win. You rode Mighty Giant in the Jockey Club Mile in the lead-up. Is that your likely ride in the mile race?
No, I'll be back on Beauty Generation. He missed the last race because they felt like he was a little bit tired and just needed to freshen up. Being an older horse, they thought he goes better when he's fresh. So that gave me the opportunity to ride Mighty Giant and test him out and see how he felt. And obviously, at this stage, I don't think he's quite up to the best of them. He had a really sweet run in that race, and it was his first time at a mile, so he might be a little bit better, but he's just not at that level yet, and especially not at set weights. But Beauty Generation looks good in the mornings. He always looks good. He's an unbelievably good-looking horse. His coat's always healthy. He's showing all the right signs. He's going to be a competitive ride, but whether he's still got it against the internationals that have come from Japan, and Aidan O'Brien's horse, and Golden 60 clearly had his measure, so he needs to find on what he's been doing.
The horse who can, if he found one more for you, he's definitely got the talent to beat a horse like Golden 60. So if there's one more in the locker, you'd like it to be his next start.
Yeah, of course, and there's a part of me that believes he's still got it. For me, he's just letting horses go past him and not showing the fight, not showing the determination that he used to show. But he did that a couple of starts last season, and then all of a sudden, that last run last season, bang, he was back on. So it's just a matter of him flicking that switch and just turning it and wanting to do it. And that's enough for him to be really competitive in the race, and you never know what happens from there.
Moving on to the sprint. Have you got a horse locked in for the sprint?
So I'm going to ride Inferno from Singapore. I took him. He's got a good record in Singapore. He's had 8 starts for the 9 starts for 8 wins. I thought his last win was pretty soft. He's clearly the best sprinter that they have there. And I didn't think we had much here in Hong Kong. Outside of Classic Legends and Hot King Prawn, the others look pretty moderate. So I was happy to take a chance with him. And, his rating says he's going to find it tough. But it's always hard to compare horses from one country to the next, and you never know. He might enjoy our firmer track here. One horse I did ride at his last start, Voyage Warrior, in the lead up. He ran well, so in hindsight I might have jumped the gun a little bit early, but I had to make a decision, and I'm happy enough to ride Inferno. Hopefully he can get a nice gate, get a nice run, and just do Singapore proud. If hopefully that's good enough to win. If it's not, hopefully we can just run a good race and walk away happy. But the exciting part is he hasn't raced against our horses here, so hopefully he is better than them.
Always give yourself a chance. There's quite a lot of horses that I've been viewing in Hong Kong recently. They've got electric 1,000-metre form, particularly down that straight. None of them have seemed to be able to bring that 1,000-metre profile up to the 1,200 to make them competitive in races like this. Computer Patch seems to be about the only one that has said, I can jump up there and mix it with the better ones. It's probably a touch disappointing because there was a lot of not only talented but high-class performances over the 1,000. What is it about that 1,000-metre sprint at Hong Kong that this horse just struggled to adapt that A to 1,200 and B to that turn?
Yeah, it's a completely different beast. The 1,000-metre straight races, they run really, really strong here. Through that midsection, they quite often run 20 seconds or, it's really low 20 seconds. It's certainly breaking 21 seconds. And that's through the middle part of the race. So you're getting out of the gates, you're running, trying to get a spot, you're working hard through the midsection, and then you've got to try and find again at the finish. There's no place to hide. They're not weak races at all. But quite often, because of that, the 1,000-metre races can feel more like 1,400-metre horses because they've got to be strong. They've got to be able to get through it. And the 1,200-metre races can be a little bit soft because you've just got to get out of the gates quick, get your spot. You can have a bit of a cozy run around the corner, and then you've got the sprint and the straight. But why horses can't adapt to it, I'm not sure. Sometimes they are a little bit awkward turning the circle, and therefore their action is not quite as good as it is when they're going up a straight. I would have thought a horse like Computer Patch would have been able to adapt and handle it. He's won around the corner before. I won on him early on in his career here in Hong Kong over 1,200. And he only just got beat a couple of starts ago when he went out quite fast in front and got beat in the last hop. So you can't say he doesn't handle the 1,200, but his 1,000-metre win seemed to be quite a fair deal more impressive than his 1,200-metre runs around the corner. So I don't know, maybe he might actually be better at 1,400.
You've told us about the best horse you've ridden, the fastest horse, and obviously a horse like Aethero was one that created a few headlines over here. It hasn't really come up. Maybe that when you run that fast, maybe it just takes you nearly 12 months to try and get over a run like that.
Yeah, you are right. But the problem with Aethero was he come here and he was rushed. He raced here as a Griffin, and he was just like a big, lanky, sort of ugly duckling. He was a funny horse. He was sort of like, he was big and had a bit of strength, but he never really filled out into his frame. And he was very one-dimensional. He was just jump and run. He couldn't relax. He couldn't get behind horses. He couldn't do things. There was no versatility to him at all. And even when he was in front, he was very hard to get to come back to relax because he just wanted to go as fast as he could the whole time. And unfortunately, he was a bleeder, and he had this problem way back, and John was managing him as well as he could. He had a mucus issues as well. He capped both his hocks. He was just always in the wars, so we never really got to see him at his best on a race course. And obviously 12 months ago, I wasted to get down to a lightweight to ride him in the race because I thought he would win. And, unfortunately for me, I I had the race won. I thought I was home, and then 75 metres out, he basically collapsed underneath me, and I nearly went through the fence when I pulled up. And although it didn't come out his nose, the blood was right. He filled right up with blood. So the signs were always there that he was going to pop at some stage, and that ended up happening. John couldn't give him a break because he was retiring at the end of the season, so he couldn't give him 4 or 6 months off just to relax. He had to sort of keep racing him because he only had him for that period of time. And he's now done a tendon as well at the start of this season, so he's in Trongfa recuperating. And it might be the best thing for him because all he's needed is time to develop, and he's now getting that time. So he could come back and be the horse that we all know that he is, or these problems could continue to keep piling up and we'll never see the best of him.
I think he's been, I think he almost holds the record for being most consecutive weeks as Everest favourite without ever the possibility of him coming.
Possibly.
Tell us about Classique Legend. Do our sprinters mix it with the best, or is it just one of those things some horses are going to handle the way races are run in Hong Kong and others aren't? How do you sort of line up the Hong Kong sprinters versus ours?
Yes, they're always hard to line up. And every time a sprinter wins in Australia, everyone hashtags world's best sprinter. So you obviously think you've got the rest of the world covered all the time. But, Australia, our industry is focused towards sprinter miles. So we generally do breed the best sprinters. But whether he's going to measure up here, I can't be sure either way. What I can say is that our tracks here are harder than the tracks in Australia. They're a lot firmer. The grass is cut shorter. So he's going to need to be able to adapt to firm tracks. He's liked a little bit of a cut in the track in Australia, although he runs some quick times on quick tracks when they were dry, but our tracks here are firmer. And then you've got to handle the environment. They're stuck in a box. They can't really go anywhere. They're in air conditioning all the time. They come out. It's hot and humid in summer. A lot of horses get those, viruses, the mucus and all those sorts of things. And I've heard he's a bit of a windsucker. So that's not a good trait to have. Whether he's like that in Australia, I don't know. Maybe he was bored in quarantine and just picked that trait up. But it's hard to say. His racing style, where he gets back, generally doesn't win too many races here in Hong Kong. Of course, they look impressive when they do win.
Unless you're Chautauqua.
Well, that's right. The year Chautauqua won here, the pace was ridiculously fast. I think they ran the first half mile in 47 seconds or something, 46 seconds. It was just set up for someone to come back in the field. So you're not going to get that scenario too often. But he's a quality horse. He's got a very high rating when he's right. He should be able to win here. Time will tell.
Don't try and tell Giant Treasure you can't win from back in the field.
What can't, sorry?
I said don't try and tell Giant Treasure that you can't win from back in the field. He's the poor man Chautauqua over in Hong Kong at the moment.
Or Pakistan Star.
He's one of my favourites.
Well, Pakistan Star's racing tonight, I think, in Dubai. So it'll be interesting to see how he goes.
Been one of the world's great enigmas, Pakistan Star, hasn't he? Have you ever had the pleasure of sitting on him?
I did. I rode him once. Unfortunately, when he was at his best and going really, really well, I was asking for the ride, but for whatever reason, Tony Cruz wouldn't put me on the horse, and then it transferred stables to Paul O'Sullivan, and he dropped him right back to a 1,200-metre sprint race one year. It might actually have been the sprint trial for the International. And I rode him in that, and I was 5th or 6th in the run, peeled him out thinking he was going to blow him away, and he just put his head up in the air and didn't go past him like he had been. But, I was talking to the owners, and they said that they were surprised I wanted to ride the horse, and they didn't know that I wanted to ride him all the way through. Tony had never told them. So I sort of missed the boat a little bit there. If I had a connection with the owner, I probably could have got on in early days. But he was, what he could do, when he's right, he was unbelievable. He could do things all other horses couldn't. And he used to do it so easily as well.
Mate, you've been very generous with your time. We've got a couple of questions, if you don't mind, Zac.
Yep.
Gregory Worth, in your eyes, what's your biggest accomplishment so far in Hong Kong, and what more do you wish to achieve?
Oh, biggest accomplishment. It's a hard one. There's been so many. Probably just surviving. Just still being out there on the track. I don't know. Maybe winning the championship in Hong Kong. It's a great achievement. One of my favourite favourite moments as a jockey. Not here in Hong Kong. I've got two overseas. One of them was winning on Aero Velocity in Japan. It was a great story. He came along at a time when Paul O'Sullivan's stable was basically on his bones. He didn't have many horses left. Paul's actually coming over for dinner tonight, so we'll reminisce about the glory days. But it built his stable back up to full capacity. The owner, it was his first horse, and he became a very good friend and a good person. He loved his racing and enjoyed it. He made little flags and banners. And when we went to Japan, he took, I think, 50 or 60 of his friends over there and paid for all their expenses. And I'd walked the track with Paul the day before, and the inside of the track was really, really worn out. And we'd drawn an inside gate. And I said to Paul, and the grass was basically bare. It was right down to the dirt. And about 3 or 4 horses off, the grass was quite long. And I said to Paul, let's just stay in here on the fence. I said, there's less friction to run through. He should be able to run quicker and faster and easier and all those sorts of things. And then it rained the night before the race. And for whatever reason, I was on the fence, and I thought at the 400 metre mark I was gone. He started losing his rhythm and he couldn't go anywhere. And I thought, I've got nothing to lose. I'll just pull him out a few horses off to the middle of the track. And as soon as I did that, it's like all of a sudden he got traction. He had his football boots on. He was getting grip into the ground, and he picked himself up. He changed his leg, and away he went. He got up on the line, and the emotion I showed, the emotion from Paul, all Daniel was the owner, all his friends. It was something that it was a great feeling, And Paul's mum had passed away not long before that, so that helped with the healing process as well for Paul, and that was great. And the other great memory I have is when I won on Little Bridge at Royal Ascot. He's a horse I spotted at the track one morning, and I said to Danny Shum, I said, have you got a rider for that horse? I said, I quite like him. And he said, no, he said, you can ride him. So I did all his early gallops on him. He was a great mover, had a perfect attitude. I think I won his first 6 or 7 races in a row on him. But he was a horse that was much better up the straight. When we got him around a corner, he was never as good. He was dynamite up the straight. And anyway, I rode here on the Sunday, flew into London, got there on the Monday, and the owner picked me up. And once again, the owners here like to travel with a heap of their friends. They had 40 of his friends, so we all got in his buses and went out to Ascot. And we walked the length of the straight. And I said, I've been watching the replays of the last few years, and most of the horses come down the grandstand rail. I said, I'd love to come down the grandstand rail. I think I'd drawn about barrier 7. And I think there's 24 runners. It's a very big field. So we decided that's what we're going to do. How I was going to get to the grandstand rail, to the outside fence from where I was, I hadn't worked that out, but I hadn't thought that through. But we went for dinner that night at Scalini's, and they've got a glass roof. I don't know if you've ever been there. It's a great Italian restaurant. If you're ever in London, you should go. I can recommend it. And me being as stupid as I was, I mustn't have been thinking properly, and the owners just getting champagne, like bottles of champagne after champagne after champagne, and we're basically celebrating like we won the race the night before. and it was daylight, and I was just thinking it's not too late, right? Because there was daylight coming through the glass. And by the time we left, it was about 11:30. And I thought, shit, what have I done here? And I went back and put my head down on the pillow, and my head was spinning. And I was thinking, you idiot, like, you've flown all this way and you've ripped yourself off. The horse had a heavy weight, so I wasn't worried about the weight I had to be. And I wake up the next morning with a thumping headache, and I put the top hat and the tails on, which I've never worn that before. And so that was quite exciting as well. And we get in the bus and we go out there, and the owner's got his own little box up in the top of the grandstand, and we get out there early. It must have been about 10 o'clock or something like that. And straight away he pops the champagne and he goes to give me a glass. And I said, I can't have that glass. I said, I'm, riding your horse today. And he goes, wow, you are so professional. And I laughed, and the trainer grabs my arm and he says, come on, let's go and walk the track. So we went out there and walked the track again, and he goes, do you want to come over to the stable and have a look at him? I said, yeah, no worries. So we walk over to the stable, and the horse looked great. He was in great form. So I go back into the jockey's room, and I'm watching on the TV, and the Queen's coming up the straight in the horse-drawn carriage, and I'm thinking, I've never seen the Queen before. I want to run out there and see her. So I run out to the scales area, and I'm standing there. She gets out, and there's just a piece of glass between me and her. I'm probably only about 1.5 meters away from her. And she has a look at me and smiles and walks past, and then Prince Philip stops, and he looks at me a little bit funny, but he smiles and he walks past, and I thought, I wonder what's going on here. And I look around, everyone behind me has got like proper suits on, and they're all nicely done up, and I had no shirt on because I was in the jockey's room. I didn't even think. So she was probably thinking, who's this rough kid? He not showing me much respect. But anyway, the first race, Frankel was in. He went straight up the middle of the track, and he won. So I went out and I said to the owner, I said, all right, change of plans. I said, Frankel went up the middle. I'm going up the middle. He's going, no, you cannot. I said, Frankel did it. I said, I'm going there. I said, that's it. So we get in the gates, and a horse, a couple of stalls down, plays up. And they say, all right, we're going to take it out. So I get off my horse and sit on the side of the gates, because normally in Australia, as you would know, and here in Hong Kong, when they take a horse out, they vet it, they decide whether it's going to run or not, and then they normally wait to announce it to the public it's going to be scratched, and that might take a couple of minutes until the race starts. So I'm off my horse, and Frankie Dettori's drawn next to me, and he said, mate, get back on your horse. He said, as soon as they take this horse out, he said, we're going. No sooner did I get on the horse and I grabbed hold of the reins, the gates open. If he hadn't said anything, I would have been stuck in the gates. So he flew the gate, obviously cruised along, and won. And then after, I went up to celebrate with the owner. I was allowed to by then, of course, and enjoy the moment. And I never forget I think it was Ladbrokes or whoever was on course come up and said to the owner, he said, oh, sorry, sir, we don't have enough money on course to pay you. He said, do you mind if we catch up with you tomorrow? I thought, well, it's been a good trip. So they're two moments that from travelling overseas that I've enjoyed, and at least I've got a couple of stories to tell.
If horses go fast up the Ascot Straight, that carriage with the Queen goes very slow. They spend a good 10, 15 minutes just going up the straight. It's quite a sight. I think the second part of the question was, what more would you like to achieve? Yeah,
so to win a Melbourne Cup. It's the race every Australian jockey owner trainer would like to win. It's hard for me to get the right opportunities being stuck here in Hong Kong, because I can't get down there and ride them in the lead-up races and those types of things. So it would probably be a little bit of a fluke, but if there was one thing I could do that I haven't, that would be it.
Similar lines, Patrick Golden, a second question. How long before you come home?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I like Hong Kong, obviously. I like the racing here. I like the people, the social side of it. We're able to travel a lot. So whilst I still enjoy it, and at the moment I still do, I don't have any plan to come home. I have had some offers to come back home, but I'm happy here. I'm happy here. The family's happy here. This is home for us at the moment. I'm not going to put a time frame on it, but I suppose one day I'll wake up and decide I've had enough, and it's a 90-hour plane flight home. Doesn't take too long.
Last one, a quirky one. Chris Bryson, tomato sauce. Does it go in the fridge or in the pantry?
We've got it in the fridge.
Good choice, I reckon.
Yeah.
You, Hayden? Fridge or pantry?
Both.
Mix it up.
Yeah, we've got one in the fridge and one in the pantry because I don't like it in the fridge.
Keeping the missus happy.
Kids can't reach it in the pantry, so they put it back in the fridge.
There you go.
Mate, you've been very generous with your time. Hayden, did you have anything else for Zac before we let him go?
Got two quick ones. I'd like to ask everybody, is this one horse in Hong Kong that Zac Purton doesn't sit on, apart from Golden 60? Who would it be?
Yeah, well, Golden 60 was the obvious one, wasn't it? We don't have any decent sprinters at the moment. Hot King Prawn has been here a while. He's probably our best chance to win the sprint next week. Obviously, Classic Legends just arrived. Don't know how he's going to settle in. We don't really have any milers outside Golden 60. We've got nothing coming through. We've got no 2,000-metre horses, apart from Furore. Exalton's a 2,000-metre, 2,400-metre horse. I just it'd be hard for me to pick one at the moment.
Have we got a baby? Have we got a young horse that you've?
I don't. I wish I could say I do, but I don't. I keep thinking, and for a few seasons now, I just keep thinking I don't have a young horse coming through that is real. Like Athero was the one from 2 seasons ago that was coming through that I was looking forward to riding last season, where things went wrong for him. But yeah, I really am in a rebuilding stage at the moment at the top end because I don't have much there. Beauty, like I said, Beauty's going to be retired soon, so I've only got Exalton left, and I don't have anything at the bottom end with the young horses coming through. So I wish I could help you, and I wish I could help myself. But
what about a horse in Australia, Zac?
A horse in Australia. What was that thing of Waller's that won at the Valley the other day? Walker come around the corner sideways on like he was on a motorbike in the blue colours. It seemed to win all right.
I can't remember the name of it. I think it started with V. Was it?
Yeah, that's it.
You're not picking that over a nature strip or a bivouac, surely.
Well, they're getting to the end of the tether. You got to look for something coming through, something that's fresh, something that's nice. It's got it all before them. If I'm looking at something that's established, geez, I must say I don't follow the races in Australia that closely anymore, but I should know what's going around, shouldn't I? I don't know, anything Waller's got. He just trains winner after winner.
He does.
Maybe we'll find you an international that can win the cup.
Yeah, that'd be good. Yeah.
Set that for a mission for next year. Hopefully you can come back for the Spring Carnival next year and we're not on the 19th wave of COVID by that stage.
Yeah, well, they're saying they got the vaccine is about to be injected into the people in the UK. So hopefully the ball's rolling now and life can go back to normal soon.
Last one from me. Racing aside, what's Zac Purton into? What's his hobbies? What's his sporting interests?
Yeah, well, I played a lot of soccer when I was younger, so I still watch the soccer a little bit. I'm into rugby league. I go for the Roosters. I'm into the AFL. I go for the Swans. I like to play golf. I'm into golf. I'm playing a little bit of tennis again recently, which I hadn't for a while. I don't mind watching a little bit of the Formula One from time to time. I like sport. I like all sport. But yeah, I'd say I'm probably into golf more than anything off the track.
What do you play off?
Depends who I'm playing.
And depends what it's for.
That's right.
I reckon Il Paradiso might be that Cups horse that you can.
That was the horse that I was gonna mention actually.
Yeah. Off the scene for 12 months. So maybe just give Chris a call and say, look, I'll book me in now. 12 months time, I want to ride Il Paradiso in the Melbourne Cup.
Yeah. Well, what did I do? I ran. I was at 4th on Finch for him in the Cup one year, and said, I'll be back to ride him next year. He said, yeah, at the time, and
difficult.
Time still hasn't come.
Too difficult, mate. You've been very generous with your time. Good luck next week. It's certainly we really enjoy looking at those big international meetings, and there's few bigger than Hong Kong International Day. So all the best, mate.
No worries. Thanks for having me, and sorry for being late. My mistake. I got the time wrong, but I got here in the end.
All good, mate. You can
Thank you very much, Zac.
You can hang
Appreciate
up.
it.
We'll sign off to the followers watching.
Okay. Cheers, guys.
Thanks, mate. Well, another good chat there, mate.
Superstar, that man.
He's a gun. Looking ahead to this weekend, Inspirational Girl in Perth. Geez, that was quite a win. We spoke to Willie Pike about it last week. I think she's about $2.20 now to win the Kingston Town on Saturday.
Repeat scene of the crime with a horse like her. You know, if there's any improvement left in her whatsoever from the previous start, she's going to be mighty hard to beat. And when you shape up against many horses that you ran against in the previous, and you had the softer of the runs with the more electric burst, there's going to be plenty of those who set up on speed. You know, you lead to stalking rolls that high tendency flat runs off speeds like that. So if anything, she probably comes into this slightly more advantaged. Horse I expect to really leap those. KC, I think up to 1,800 metres will suit it. And I expect it to be a lot closer to the winner. It was hard to miss the run from the other one from the back uni time, but class-wise, you know, it's probably about where it's at. You know, you can take 3-4 lengths inferior to the others.
Yeah, KC is one of those horses that just did not, hadn't been exposed to that brutal early speed. I think its lead-up runs were, 10, 17 lengths below benchmark, and then massive exertion and sustaining that home. So if they go a little bit more orderly here, expect KC flying home. But I'm with you. I think Inspirational Girl's going to take some serious beating. We'll post our best bets on the weekend. Mate, it's been great to chat, and I'll chat to you soon.
Will do. Thank you.
Thanks, punters.